I have a feeling it's really bad, but the one that I found the most comfort with is just doing that.
Okay, now that is a terrible move. That is a
See?
very, very
I
bad
told
move.
you.
Yes. So actually, you said you'd watch Kasparov's masterclass. I haven't actually looked at it, so I can't really comment on it. But I'm surprised. Did he not show the Nightorf in his videos?
That was a long time ago when I
Okay.
watched it. Like I didn't play this game back then. So I don't remember, but
So when your opponent plays in the center, you always have to take the pawn on d4 here.
you just have to take it. Okay.
Yeah, and normally what I would suggest that you play is you bring this knight out to attack the pawn, right? And white can't push the pawn because you capture. So white will normally develop the knight. And since you said you want to develop this bishop, I think probably you should play this Nightorf opening, which is pawn to a6.
That's what I like to do a lot. So like typically, well,
Right, that's fine. Even with your bad order. So actually, after
let's
here,
say for example he doesn't push the pawn, which I don't always do. So like if he goes here, okay. So if I go like this, and then if he goes here, I go here, and then sometimes from here they go like this. This is what I've been, because they try to get me with this, the knight combo. So then I go like this, right? This actually works really well for me. And then whatever. Sometimes they try to do this move right off the bat, and then I block it with that. And then what do? They go okay. So then they castle, and then I go like this with the pawn. And then if they go, obviously if he goes back here, I capture his bishop. Otherwise, his bishop has to retreat. And then, so if his bishop retreats over here, then I just push the next one. So then I build up all this space on the right. I don't know if it's or not, but it feels like it's a way to sort of push back the aggression from my opponent. Because there's like, now I'm pushing back against him, where he's got to react to my moves for the other.
Right, no, that's actually very, very good. And that's why I thought maybe playing something like the Nightorf makes sense, because what you want to do in a perfect world when you get, well, this isn't the normal order that will happen when they push and you capture, is that you actually try to do that anyway. You push this pawn, and the idea is to push this pawn and develop the bishop. So let's just say, for example, white moves the bishop here. You can push this pawn. The key
difference is definitely take the pawn. Yeah, I've tried with both. Like I tried taking the pawn, I tried not taking the pawn, and I wasn't really sure which was better, but clearly the one I was doing more of late is not good.
Yeah, always take the pawn. Always take the pawn, and then there are many setups that you can play. You don't even have to play this Nightorf, but since you seem to want to develop on this queen side, it's very much in the theme where you can push this pawn and you move this bishop on the diagonal.
Yeah, it's like, I guess the way that I think about it, I don't know if it's poker related, is like with white, I want to be like super aggro, right? And like develop really, really quickly. And then with black, I'm like, I'm not about quick development. I'm just about getting to the point where I'm starting to push him backwards by defending.
Right, and that's actually what you're looking to do here when you play this setup, is you're looking to develop this bishop on this long diagonal. And then additionally, at some point, you're looking to maybe push this pawn to remove this knight from this square and capture this pawn in the center of the board on e4.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I'm looking to do, yeah.
So I think, yeah, if you're playing the Sicilian, I mean, it's very hard because there's so many different setups, but normally, yeah, some combination by pushing this pawn and pushing here. You just have to remember that you always trade this pawn. You do need to remember that. But I should develop
the knight first, right? Or no?
You mean like move this here?
No, so like after I'm no. So after I'm here, like, should I not move this knight over here? The one on the
the one on b8? Oh, no, you do want to do this. Yeah, you always want to do this to attack.
Yeah, basically what I do is my first move is whatever, e5, then d4, then knight to g6 is my first three moves.
Right, and then after knight to c3 here,
that's where I would move a6.
Right. Yeah, because now the idea is to play b5 and develop the bishop to b7.
Yeah.
And let's say white plays like normally white can develop many ways, but again, the main thing you want to remember is that you want to play pawn to b5 and bishop to b7 here. So like you play this and you want to put the bishop on the diagonal, and at some point you want to play b4.
And the other one, sometimes people open with the Queen's Gambit because they all watch the movie, I guess.
Right, so they can play this pawn to d4 here, right?
Yeah, and then when that happens, I just match it.
Okay, so you play d5, right?
Yeah.
And so now normally they're going to play c4, right?
Yeah.
And so what's your reply?
I just bring my knight up to g6.
And then when they take,
knights take back.
Right.
But they don't usually take.
What's that?
At my level, they don't usually take.
Okay, so yeah, so I was gonna say actually you shouldn't bring the knight out. The reason you shouldn't do this first is because after pawn takes, knight takes, they can take the center very quickly by pushing this pawn.
Yeah.
So what I would recommend is that you actually push this pawn first.
Okay.
Because now you guard this pawn on d5 with your own pawn. So if they take back, you can capture with your pawn, and they can't take the center here.
Yes, that's good.
And they'll probably like bring some knights out. And probably the simplest way to play this, I think, is trying to think of something aggressive. Trying to think of something aggressive. Let me think. They play d4. How can you play something aggressive? Trying to think of, because like you can play the setup like with these knights out, but it's very passive and very slow. It's not an open position whatsoever. Like no pieces have been traded in this game. So you know what, I actually have a different suggestion. I think you should play knight here.
Okay.
Most of the time they're going to push this pawn, and now I think you should push this pawn to c5 here.
Just sacrifice it.
Right, so this isn't actually a sacrifice, because if white takes this pawn, you can just push this pawn forward and capture next move.
But I mean, that's if he doesn't move his other pawn to protect it.
Right, so I'm going to push my pawn to protect it. So now you can actually push this pawn here and break this pawn chain.
Right. Okay.
And let's say I push my pawn to keep this, what we call a pawn chain, intact.
Yeah. Now he's fucked because he's gonna lose his rook.
Right, yeah, you just take the pawn, and I can't keep the chain alive because I lose the rook. And if I protect somehow the rook, I'm gonna lose this other pawn on c5.
Yeah.
So in this case, white can't actually protect this pawn. So you basically, what you do is you just play bishop takes c5 and castles. Like, let's just say I move my knight out, you just take the pawn and you castle the king. Let's say I develop, and now you can push this pawn and get kind of a similar setup where you put the bishops on both of these diagonals.
Yeah, I like that.
So that's something like this is more reasonable. I think it's more in the style. And if they push this pawn here, what you should play is you should just push this pawn here
and then create the bishop diagonal there.
Right, you move like this. I guess white will push a pawn. You want to create this pawn chain yourself here. And let's say white plays like knight f3, you just castle. And it's pretty hard to like it's hard to explain this, but I think like if you're gonna play like kings, this is what we call like the King's Indian or the Benoni. And what you're gonna try to do long term is at some point you want to open up this diagonal for the bishop, and you also want to put the rook here and open up this e-file for the rook. So let's say white castles, you can just take and put your rook here and try to put pressure on the center, and at some point you can also move your bishop out and move your knight to this d7 square.
So you're opening up the middle.
Yes. So something like this is an idea. You don't have to play it, but if you're trying to play something more aggressive, it's either that or you try to play something a little bit slower like d5 and e6. But that's probably one of those openings is what I would suggest. So again I think like as far as like these d4 openings go, I mean, there's still a long time before the event, but just maybe look at a couple of videos and see what openings interest you.
Yeah, well, yeah, the one I usually use, like I said, is when they open on e4s. I always do the Sicilian, and then like I try to limit. My mindset is like limit space, right? And I do that by, I guess it's called the Najdorf, right, where you move to e6, and then even like I might h6 too, like at some point where basically both are in both those squares right. I mean, I think the main thing to think about when you play this Najdorf is just mainly you want to push this pawn and develop your bishop, and then you want to push this pawn and develop the bishop on this diagonal. Basically, that's the most important thing. Yeah, well, for me, taking the pawn that they put up there, which I wasn't doing before.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So do you have any other questions, anything specific?
I guess in terms of like approach to practice, like I mean obviously puzzles and stuff, and like what do you think is the best way to like get sharper?
I think since you're playing sharp openings, doing a lot of puzzles is important. I think you should also play as much as you can as well, just to have the feel for it. What do you normally play? Do you play like blitz games, like 3 minutes?
3 minutes? Oh God, no. Play 10-minute game. 3 minutes. I play 10-minute games, and I'm like 11:20 right now.
Very good. Yeah, I was gonna say that like it's important that you play slower games, not the really fast games.
And I play a few dailies with friends who are like 3-day games. You got 3 days to do those ones are interesting too, because then I really get to like really think.
Right. Right. So yeah, I mean play as much as you can, but since you're playing these very aggressive openings, doing a lot of puzzles is gonna be really important, because the openings that you play that are aggressive, they have a lot of tactical puzzles in them.
Yeah, that's what I got the sense of, like, and I find the puzzles fun too, because but the thing is like, I guess when I'm presented with a puzzle, I always know that it's like, okay, it's some sick move, right? It's not like a passive move, right? So now I'm like looking for this sick move, whereas like if I'm actually playing a game, I'm not going like, oh, there's a sick move here. There's this, but like when you're telling me, you're like, what would be a better play? Or like, what could win you a lot of material? I'm like, oh, there's something here that could win me a lot of material. Let's take a look. But again, naturally in the game, I'm always thinking about like, all right, try to win.
That happens to everyone, by the way. That's like the hardest thing in chess is, like even for me, if I know it's a puzzle, it's very easy to spot it. Sometimes though, in like an actual game situation, I won't even spot some of these tactics either. So that's very true. But I think the openings that you're playing, these ideas with like diagonals and batteries are really important, because that's what's going to occur a lot in the games where you're the white piece. So if you can do like the battery checkmates or the discovered attacks and forks, those three themes are going to happen a lot in the especially in the Danish Gambit.
Yeah, it's fun. It's definitely fun, and the games are fast, and it feels like if you are playing fast games, like 3 minutes, if I ever did, then Danish Gambit would be ideal, because they usually, if you win, it doesn't take very long to win.
Exactly. Yeah, very true, yeah. So I guess, I mean, are you good? Is there anything else?
I think my brain is pretty full right now. Yeah, that was a lot of good stuff. I'm gonna actually, after this, I'm gonna play a few games. We're playing as white, and see if I can remember all the cool little tricks. But yeah, there's definitely some key principles. I was making mistakes right at the beginning, that eliminating that will put me in better positions right off the bat.
Great. Now, before you go, though, I do have one question, because everyone's been asking, which is, since there are, of course, a lot of poker people watching, how are you feeling about your match? I mean, I know you've been coming back against Doug Polk. How are you feeling right now about that?
Well, obviously you got to feel good about it, right? 2021, new calendar. Feels like I had some, like, so in the beginning of the match, he's obviously a much bigger favorite. And I was also running really bad, right? So it was like a bad combination where I dug a pretty big hole. I've gotten a lot better, right? His level of, it's just like you, right? Like if for you to get better at chess right now would be like incremental, like very, very small. Like you don't go from like really bad to like, okay. So with my poker in the heads up, because it's not my format, my learning curve has been exponential, right? And his is minimal. So the gap, is closing, as we say. So I've won 5 straight sessions, feeling really, really good about just getting comfortable, seeing spots. Like, it's weird, and I mentioned this, but I stopped playing chess for a little while because I was doing this match, and I'm like, I need to focus on poker, right? And then I was like, all right, I had a little free time. I was like, let me play a few games of chess. And I was like, whoa, how did I get better at chess? And I haven't played chess in like, 3 months really. And I think part of it is just like getting your brain active with because when you're playing online poker, you're playing 2 screens at once really, really quick, and you have to see things quickly. And it helped my chess game. And I feel like just playing chess in my downtime is helping my poker game. So doing both at the same time has just activated my brain to just sort of, think at a more efficient level. I think it's important. It's like a muscle, right? Like you don't use it, you lose it.
So to just ask one more additional question just related to poker. So like there's obviously that other match that I think it was Phil Galfond played, where he came back and he was way behind early. Is it like where the edges are very pronounced at the start and then people are making small changes, that sort of is what changes it? Or I mean, is it more psychological? I mean, there's probably a difference, but yeah.
Like unlike chess, right? Like if you're better than me at chess, you're just going to win. Period. You're just going to win, and you're going to keep winning. Maybe you lose one once in a while because you made a blunder or whatever. In poker, that's not how it works. Like if you took two evenly skilled players, right? Player A and player B are totally even in skill, and they played 10 million hands. Okay. At one point, one of those players will go on a 600 buy-in downswing. 600 buy-ins just due to variance and luck and stuff like that. So heads up poker, it's a skillful format extremely, but it's also much higher variance than when you play against 7 or 8 people at the table. So luck plays like a major role. And obviously with the game that Phil Galfond was playing when he was able to come back, he's playing a game called Pot Limit Omaha, which has even more variance, where you're doing a lot of situations where you're flipping a coin for like, you know, large sums of money. And I guess the flips were not going Phil's way. So I think it's mostly, well, I mean, I think the number one primary driver is luck. And then after that, maybe it's a question of like adjustments that are made, you know, depending on, you know, or you know, just spots that you're like leaks that you're plugging, right? Like I just plugged a few leaks in chess right now. Help me, my match is going to make me have a better chance to win. Well, I've been doing that in poker the whole time. I'm like, all right, that's a leak. Let's plug that. So the more you can plug, you know, you're always going to have a couple, but the more you can plug, just the better you set yourself up to deal with the variance when it comes.
That's great. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to get you to say too much, but yeah, that's really, really interesting. Yeah, I guess like that is true though, because you're playing Hold'em versus PLO, where I guess, I mean, you're what, 60-40 at best most of the time in a lot of situations. So yeah, it is the variance certainly. It sounds like it plays a role, but yeah. Well, I hope you enjoy the chess, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how you do. I think a lot of us are rooting for you as you try to come back in your poker match. It's 25k hands, right?
Yeah, we're playing 25,000 total hands. We've played 15,250. I've won 5 straight matches. The deficit was $950,000. It's now down to about $480,000. So definitely headed in the right direction, obviously. But a long way to go. And I'm just like, I'm literally taking it like the sports, you know, analogy of like one day at a time, one play at a time, like one session per, you know, if I win going forward, if I win one buy-in per 500 hand session, I will win the match. So that's kind of where I'm trying to pace at. And I've, you know, just been trying to be slow and steady and not try to win it all in one session.
Yeah. Well, I guess when you're playing so many hands, that's kind of how you have to look at it. But yeah, all right. Well, I enjoyed this and good luck. And I'm sure we're all looking forward to seeing how you do in the poker match, and then also in PogChamps as well. You're, I think, one of probably the early favorites right now.
Are you kidding me? I'm a favorite in chess? There's no way. That's so cool.
Yeah, I think you are. You're probably like, I would say, like 3rd or 4th best, I think, right now. There are probably like 2 or 3 who are probably a little bit higher ranked, but you are definitely one of the favorites.
Well, that's super cool because I love tournaments, and I've like never really felt comfortable playing a chess tournament. So I'm like, what's the point? Can't really win it. But it's going to be really, really fun. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm going to do my best to nail these openings. And hopefully, you know, hopefully they're not watching this and they know what my openings are and they're studying how to defend against the Danish Gambit.
There's a lot of time too, though. There's a lot of time, and not everything will be on stream as well. So there'll be plenty of time to make adjustments and go from there. But yeah, it's going to be a great event. So really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's like I've never played a chess tournament, so this is going to be like super cool. I'm excited. I always bring my best in tournaments, though. Like I'm going to be super focused. I'll have the coffee ready. I'll be engaged. I'm going to do my best to bring it home.
Yeah, I think it's like one of those things, since you have played a little bit. There's some people who are completely new, and like the learning curve you're just getting started is much harder than if you've already been playing for a couple months or a couple of years. So that's why I think you're in good shape. But it's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait. I'm actually super excited to play now. And first I was like, a little bit of cold feet. I'm like, I don't know, I'm not good enough. And then you said, well, they're not that good either. I'm like, really? Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Also, though, the one other thing you have is I think it's much different. Like since you play poker for money, it's very high stress. I mean, I think a lot of gamers, some of them are professionals, but it's not the same sort of level of pressure. So that also is another factor that you have, is that you've played under stress.
Definitely. I rise to the occasion in stressful situations. I always have, when my back's against the wall. When I started out playing poker, there were many moments where all my money was in on a hand. Like every penny to my name was like all in on the flop. And I'm just like, you know, if I lose, I'm broke and looking for a bus ticket back home. So pressure has always been my friend.
Right. All right, so I guess I'll let you get going and play some games, but that was really fun, and we should do this again soon.
Hey, just want to say thanks so much. You're a great teacher. You're like very easy to digest the way that you explain things, and this was a great format for my first ever lesson. I mean, how lucky am I that my first lesson's with you? That's pretty cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So thank you for coming on as well. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
See you later.
Bye.
That was fun.